Hi, I'm Nika if you haven't practiced with me yet, and this will be a breakdown of some postures. So it'll still be super fun if you're not new to yoga, but if you are new to yoga, I'll break down some of the basic postures, go through Sun A and Sun B, find some breath to movement. And let's start seated. And I always recommend a block or pillow or something if you have it. If not, no problem. But it always does feel nice for me to be sitting up on something. Helps my spine to be long instead of cashewed and rounded. So see if you can really lengthen the spine, find your sit bones, reach the crown of your head up towards the sky. Relax the shoulders. And without manipulating the breath, let's just see if we can bring awareness to it. Noticing its texture, the sound, how it feels. As always, using these first few moments to kind of check in with what you're holding on to, where your mind is, how your body is feeling. And I'm a firm believer that if we did more of these awareness check ins, wondering what we're holding, how we're feeling, so that we can step into each moment completely aware, then the world would be a better place. See if you can take a few more breaths, starting to lengthen and deepen the inhale and the exhale. Keeping your awareness on the breath. Not being upset or judgmental when your mind starts to wander, but rather just noticing where that thought came from, where it goes, and then bringing your attention back to the right here, right now. Let's take a few big breaths together. Take a big inhale through the nose to fill. Big exhale out the mouth, let it go. Two more just like that. Big inhale, fill up. Exhale out the mouth, release. Last time, just like that. Big inhale through the nose, fill up. Exhale out the mouth, let it go. Seal the lips. Maybe you find Ujjayi breath in and out through the nostrils, soft constriction in the back of the throat. And then when it feels right, we'll flicker open the eyes. Take an inhale, reach your hands up overhead. Big stretch up. And then as you exhale, bring your hands to heart center, Samastiti. Two more times just like that. Big inhale, reach tall with the hands. Exhale, bring the hands to heart center. Last one, inhale, reach, lift. Exhale, bring it down. A little different this time. Inhale, reach, lift, bring the hands up overhead. This time as you exhale, dive forward. We'll find tabletop, bringing your wrists underneath your shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Spread the fingers wide, and your knees should be about hip width distance apart. And then as you inhale, we'll drop the belly down to the ground. Brighten through the collarbones, lift the chin, find cow pose. And then as you exhale, round through the spine, tuck the tailbone down, pull the belly button up towards the sky as you bring the chin towards the chest. Just like that, 2 times breath to movement. Inhale, cow pose, drop the belly, lift the heart. Exhale, cat around the spine. Last one, inhale. Exhale, cat. Inhale to neutral, lengthen through the spine. And then we'll bring ourselves forward and we're going to practice our chaturanga push-ups, but on our knees. So regularly when we're doing chaturanga, we're coming from high plank, but we're going to practice on the knees. So bring the hands just a little farther in front of the shoulders. And then we're going to pull the hips forward so that the shoulders come back over the fingertips. And then as you exhale, squeeze the elbows down. Let the heart space melt, but inhale, press all the way back up. And notice if your elbows came above the rib cage. If they did, I want you to keep your rib cage a little higher this time. So as you inhale, lengthen through the spine, and then as you exhale, come halfway down. Elbows should be just outside the rib cage. And then inhale, press all the way back up. Last time, just like that. Take an inhale to reach forward, lengthen the spine. Exhale, come halfway down. Don't let the rib cage drop below the elbows. Inhale, come all the way back up. Child's pose, bring the knees really wide out towards the sides of the mat. Bring your big toes to touch behind you. Press your hips towards your heels as you reach the hands forward. Next inhale, let's meet in our plank pose. So bring your shoulders back up on top of the wrists. This time tuck the toes. Find the alignment in high plank. So shoulders should be right above the wrists. And if not, you can move the hands forward or back. Heels should be just above the toes. Really lengthen through the spine. Pull the shoulders out wide. Engage through the core, engage the glutes. Take a big inhale. Then as you exhale, press your hips up towards the sky. We'll find downward facing dog. Really press into the hands as you let the heels melt down to the ground, and your knees can be really bent here. What's most important is the long spine. So if your knees straighten and your spine starts to go like this and round, let's re-bend to the knees and press the heart space towards the knees. And for this first Sun A, we'll look forward between our hands with an inhale. And as you exhale, gently walk your feet up towards your hands. We'll find ragdoll pose to begin, so take little gentle footsteps all the way up to the front of the mat. Feet should be hip-width distance apart. Bend the knees deeply, let the heart space release on top of the thighs, shake out the head. Next inhale, we'll find our halfway lift. So bring your hands to your shins or your thighs, reach the crown of your head forward. And you don't have to straighten the legs. You can if you want to, but I like to keep my knees bent so that my spine can be really long. And then I rock the weight into the balls of my feet so that my hips are directly on top of my ankles. Roll your shoulders back towards your hips. Take one more big inhale. And then as you exhale, fold forward, let it go. Inhale upwards, reach tall with the hands as your heart space stacks on top of the hips. Reach up with the fingertips. And really find it here. Reach the fingertips up, ground down into the feet. Maybe even lift the toes to spread them and press them back down to the ground. And then lift up through the heart space, pull the shoulders wide, and then reach the fingertips up towards the sky. Take a big inhale. Exhale, hands come to heart center. Again, reground. Still finding openness in the heart space. Take a big inhale through the nose to fill. And then a big exhale out the mouth, let it go. Inhale, hands reach tall, up overhead. Lift through the fingertips. As you exhale, dive forward. Find your forward fold. As you inhale, find your halfway lift, lengthen through the spine. Hands can come to shins or thighs. And then as you exhale, plant the hands down and walk the feet gently back to the back of the mat, finding your high plank position. Now we're going to find that chaturanga again, but we're going all the way down to the ground this time. So as you inhale, charge the heels forward, and then option to keep the knees up. You might drop the knees if that feels better for you, and then start to bend the elbows, releasing all the way down to the ground. Your hips and your heart should reach at the same time. When you get to the bottom, flip to the tops of your feet. We'll find cobra pose, lift up through the heart space, roll the shoulders down the back towards your hips, squeeze your elbows back behind you. And then press the tops of your feet down into the mat. Engage through your entire back body. Squeeze the glutes, lengthen the spine. Take a big inhale. Exhale, release, let it go. 2 more times just like that. Inhale, cobra pose. Lift up, roll the shoulders down the back towards the hips. Exhale, release. Last time, inhale, lift, cobra. Maybe press a little weight into the hands, but keep pulling the shoulders away from the ears. And then exhale, release, let it go. Tuck your toes underneath your feet. As you inhale, come through tabletop or high plank. And then as you exhale, press the hips all the way up and back, downward facing dog. We're going to do that 2 more times. I'm going to walk you through it again, and then we'll do it breath to movement. And this time, if you want to, you can walk the hands up towards the feet, or you can hop with me. So we'll inhale, look forward in between the hands. We'll bend the knees really deep, coming into this crouchy pose. And then we'll exhale, find your forward fold. Maybe you hop the feet forward at the same time. That's just an option. If you'd rather walk the feet up, you totally can. Finding the forward fold. This time your big toes should come to touch, heels separated slightly. And again, your knees can be straight or bent. Inhale, find your halfway lift, lengthen through the spine, reach the crown of the head forward. Exhale, release, let it go. Forward fold. Inhale, upward salute, root rise, reach tall with the hands, lift the fingertips up overhead. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, bring the hands all the way back up, lift tall. Exhale, forward fold, let it go, dive over the hips. Inhale, find your halfway lift, lengthen through the spine. This time, option to plant the hands and walk the feet back, or we can plant the hands and jump the feet back. If you do, please land with your elbows bent. And then you can re-straighten, finding your high plank. Another option here. Either you can go all the way down through cobra like we just did, or you can follow me through upward facing dog. So as we inhale, we'll charge the heels forward. As you exhale, come halfway down, really paying attention to that chaturanga elbows, not letting yourself dip way down here, but rather above the elbows. Flip to the tops of the feet. Inhale, pull the heart space through, find your upward facing dog. Again, rolling those shoulders down the back, staying active through the back body. Exhale to your downward facing dog, hips go up and back. And it's really important to pay attention to the body here and know how it's feeling it. And chaturangas are always optional. One thing I like to do from high plank is just drop the knees, do a cat-cow, roll through the spine, go back up to downward facing. So it's always yogi's choice in that regard. Again, you can walk, step, or hop forward, walk, step, or hop back to your high plank, but I will show you hopping forward. So let's start by syncing the breath. Take a big inhale through the nose to fill up. Big exhale out the mouth, let it go. Inhale, look forward in between the hands. Exhale, step, walk, hop, or float. Find a forward fold at the front of the mat. Catch the rebound. Inhale, find your halfway lift, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, release, let it go. Forward fold. Inhale, upward salute, root rise, reach the hands tall up overhead. Exhale, hands to heart, Samasthiti. Inhale, bring the hands all the way up, lift tall. Exhale, forward fold, release, let it go. Inhale, find your halfway lift, lengthen the spine. Finding downward facing dog, option to move through connecting vinyasa. Coming all the way down or halfway down, cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Pull hips up and back. Let's take a little break here. So bring the knees down to the mat, nice and wide. Child's pose, hips go to heels. And if child's pose doesn't feel restful for you, you can find tabletop instead, or any other position that might feel better or more restful. Taking a few breaths here, rechecking in. Next inhale, come up into tabletop. Finding your high plank, and then downward facing dog, hips go up and back. Go down into your left foot, and you might bring it towards center. And then as you inhale, reach your right leg back behind you, and it might go up high, but it might not. It might just be barely up off of the ground. Make sure your leg is really straight and strong. That's more important than how high it is. And then we'll find scorpion pose. Stack your right hip on top of your left. Bend your right knee, really open up through the entire right side body. Refine three-legged dog. Drop your right hip down in line with the left. And then as you exhale, bring your right foot forward inside of your right hand, plant it. And it might take a few steps to get that right foot forward. Totally fine. Find a hip width distance stance with your feet for grounding. Keep your right knee this bent. Bend into your left knee just slightly. Find your balance in your feet first, and then slowly bring your hands up overhead. High lunge crescent pose. So in this, you could start to straighten this back leg, but if that is compromising your lower back, it's way more important to keep the pelvis in line, the spine long. And it's important that our hips are squared off towards the front here, so maybe you bring your hands to your hips and square them off towards the front, bend into both of the knees. Maybe hands return up overhead. And then one time we'll find devotional lunge, cactus the arms as you bend deep into the knees, open up through the heart space, hold for 3, 2. High lunge crescent as you lift, hands come up overhead. And then we'll find warrior 2. Spin your left heel down, open up through the arms, find a T position with the hands. So your right toes should be facing forward, your right knee should be facing forward. And then if you were to draw a line through your right foot all the way to your back foot, it should be intersecting at your left heel or the middle of your left foot. I like it better when it's the middle of my left foot, personal preference. Hands come to a T. And then what I like to do here is look down, make sure my hips are squared off towards the side, ribs are squared off towards the side, extend through the fingertips, and then find the gaze. Pulling the shoulders on top of the hips. Sometimes we like to pull the shoulders on top of the right leg, really pull these left fingertips back to find the alignment. Taking reverse warrior, we'll bring this left hand down, barely touching the left leg. Right hand lifts up overhead. Reach through the right side body. So you should have little to no weight in this left hand. And for me, I like to remind myself to not put weight into it by bringing it back behind my back. We'll find extended side angle. Drop your right elbow down to your right knee. Left hand lifts up overhead. Maybe you choose to reach the left hand all the way up overhead towards the front. Really pull this left rib cage on top of the right. Pull the left hip back. Stay with your breath. And then we'll release into a reverse triangle. So let your left hand pull you up. Straighten this right leg. Right hand lifts tall up overhead. Kind of same thing as reverse warrior, but with the straight right leg. Find a micro bend in the right knee, and then we'll find triangle pose. Press your hips towards the back. Reach your right hand forward. And hold here. Reach your right fingertips as far forward as you possibly can. And then from here, you're going to keep your upper body exactly how it is. Drop your right hand down to shin or block. Left hand goes up overhead. This is our triangle pose. Keep a micro bend in the right knee. Lengthen through the right side body. Reach up through the left fingertips. Like a piece of toast in the toaster oven. We'll look down in front of the right foot. Bend into the right knee, finding half moon. Bring your right hand in front of your right pinky toe, and then launch onto your right leg, lifting the left leg up. And I like to bring a block underneath my right hand when I have it. Let's be here for 3, 2, 1. Find warrior 2. Come all the way back. Bend into the right knee. Drop the left foot. Take an inhale to reach the right fingertips up and back. And then as you exhale, frame your right foot with your hands. Finding runner's lunge here. Left heel lifts up off of the ground. Really plant down into the hands, and then as you inhale, bring your right foot back to meet the left. High plank. Optional connecting vinyasa here if you want to inhale, charge the heels forward. Exhale, come halfway down, elbows just outside the rib cage. Inhale to upward facing dog, pull the heart space through. Exhale to downward facing, hips go up and back. Beautiful. Then we'll inhale, look forward between the hands. And then as you exhale, find your forward fold, step, walk, hop, or float. Bring the feet to the front of the mat. And then you can keep your feet at hip width distance. I like to bring my big toes to touch, heels separated slightly. And then we're going to come all the way into our chair pose, lift tall. So in chair pose, we really want to ground down into the feet, pull the hips back. It's really important that the spine is long, so you might play with pulling in and tucking out the pelvis, finding which feels best for you, somewhere in the middle of that. So really sit down into the knees, lift up through the heart space, lift the gaze a little bit. One more big inhale here. Exhale to your forward fold release. Inhale, find your halfway lift, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, release, let it go. Inhale, find half staff. So we'll ground down into the right foot and we'll lift the left knee as we come up. Really flex the left toes. And then we'll cross the left ankle on top of the right knee for figure 4. Hips go back just like they were in chair pose. And hands come to heart center. You should feel a good stretch in the outside of your left hip. And then we'll lift up, uncross the ankle, press this left foot to the back of the mat, finding our high lunge, but power lunge this time. So what makes it a power lunge is our heart space stays forward. So it's a lot of weight in this front foot. We'll square the hips off towards the front, and then we'll reach the hands like they were shooting out the top of the head. And then we'll find the feet first. So we'll spin the left heel down, finding a 45-degree angle with that left foot, and then we'll slowly bring our shoulders on top of our hips. Warrior 1. So feet should have about a hip-width distance stance apart. Right toes face forward, left toes at a 45-degree angle, 9 o'clock. Slowly bring your hands down, interlace them behind your lower back. Start to press them down the back of your left leg, lifting up through the heart space. And then we'll find humble warrior. Slowly start to bring your heart space down towards your right knee. Keep your feet as they are. Maybe the hands go up overhead. If that doesn't feel good, just let them relax. And here again, we want to keep squaring the hips off towards the front. Release your hands to your lower back. Let them swipe the ground, coming all the way back up to your warrior 1 lift. And then as you exhale, fold, frame your right foot with your hands, lift your left heel up off of the ground. We'll bring the left knee down to the earth and pull the hips back, finding half splits. Flex your right toes. And I like to press my right heel forward a few inches here. Again, maybe you bring blocks or something underneath the hands or pillows to make the floor feel just a little bit closer. And my favorite thing about half splits is that you can really play with the direction of the right toes to get into different hamstrings. And if your IT bands feel tight or your right hip, you can keep your left hand down and reach your right hand up overhead, getting a nice right IT band stretch. Drop your right hand down. We'll plant down into the right foot, finding our runner's lunge again. Tuck the left toes, lift the left knee, plant down into the hand. And we'll skip the connecting vinyasa this time, so just bring your right foot back to meet the left, press the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Finding the left side, take a few breaths in between. Bring your right foot a little closer towards center for the balance, and then lift this left leg up. Finding 3-legged dog again. It doesn't matter how high it is, just keep your hips down in line, squared off towards the mat. Energize through the left toes. And then we'll unsquare the hips, stack the left hip on top of the right, finding scorpion pose. Maybe you bend the left knee, really stretch through that left side body. Refinding 3-legged dog, straighten through the left leg, drop the left hip down in line with the right. Runner's lunge, bring the left foot forward, all the way, plant it inside the left hand. Ground down into the feet, find a hip-width distance stance with the feet. Find the balance first, and then bring the hands up overhead, reaching tall. Again, really squaring the hips off towards the front, bending into the right knee if that feels better in the lower back. And then allow the shoulders to go wide out towards the sides of the room. Fingertips reach up towards the sky. And then we'll find one devotional lunge, bend deeply into both of the knees, cactus the arms open up through the heart. Take a couple deep breaths here. High crescent, bring the hands up overhead. And then we'll open up to warrior two. So spin your right heel down. Hands come to a T, so you should be squaring the shoulders and the hips off towards the side. And then left toes still face forward, left knee faces forward, really ground onto the outside edge of your right foot. So you should feel a really long, active energy pressing into the right foot and then pulling this right hip all the way. Fingers go out, square the shoulders, gaze comes over the left fingertips. Next inhale, we'll find our reverse warrior. Left hand goes all the way up and back, stretch through the left side body. Again, you could keep your right hand here, but to make sure there's no weight in it, pressing on this knee joint, I like to bring it to the back to make sure. Extended side angle, drop the left elbow down to the left knee. Right hand reaches up overhead towards the sky, or like it was shooting out from the crown of your head. Keep pulling this right rib on top of the left, pulling the ribs in line with the hips. Sometimes we like to really arch the back and pull the ribs forward. Let's keep it all in line. Moving into reverse triangle pose. Let yourself come up. Again, straighten through the left leg. Left hand reaches tall up overhead. And then again, we'll reach forward with this left hand as much as we can. Press your hips back. And then when we can't reach any farther away from ourselves, keep the heart space exactly where it is. Simply drop the left hand down to shin or block. Micro bend in the left knee, right hand reaches up overhead. And you can always click this back foot in a little bit closer if you need to. Gaze can be wherever feels comfortable here. Moving into half moon, we'll look in front of our left foot, bend into the left knee, launch into the left foot, grounding down to the left hand, lift the right leg up. Again, I like to have a block underneath my left hand, normally when I can. Reach the right fingertips up towards the sky like you're expanding in all four directions. Beautiful, and then we'll release to our warrior two, reverse warrior, plant the right foot, left hand reaches tall up overhead. And then we'll cartwheel the hands down. Finding a low lunge, spin the right heel up off of the ground, play down into the hands, bring your left foot back to meet the right, find your high plank. Optional connecting vinyasa, inhale, charge the heels forward. Exhale, come halfway down. Inhale through upward facing dog, pull the heart space through. Exhale to downward facing, hips go up and back. Take a big inhale here, look forward. Exhale, step walk, hop or float, find your forward fold at the front of the mat. Inhale, find your halfway lift, lengthen. Exhale, release, let it go. Inhale to chair pose. So big toes come together, feet or heels are a little bit farther apart. So the goal here is so that the outsides of our feet are parallel to each other. We'll bring the hands up overhead, set the hips low. Option for drinking bird, we'll interlace the hands at the lower back. Press the hands down the back, lift the heels. And this might be enough. Or you might start to release the heart space down. Maybe you lift the hands up. And we'll drop the heels, release the hands. Half staff, bring your right knee with you as you lift tall. Flex the right toes. Figure four, cross the right ankle on top of the left knee, so the hips back, just like they were in chair pose. Hands come to heart. And then we'll lift up just enough to uncross the right ankle. Finding power, lunge, kick the right foot to the back of the mat. So the heart space stays kind of far forward so that the weight is really in this left leg. Reach the hands up overhead. And then we'll adjust the feet, spin the right heel down so the right toes are at 45, and then warrior one, bring your shoulders on top of the hips, reach tall through the fingertips. Think about pulling the right belly forward, squaring the heart space off towards the front. And then we'll interlace the fingers at the lower back. Start to press them down the back of the right leg, lift up through the heart space. Humble warrior, start to release your heart space down towards the left leg, lifting the hands either up overhead or keeping them down. Yogi's choice. Release the hands to the lower back. Let them swipe the ground all the way back up into your warrior one. And then we'll release. Frame the left foot with the hands. Spin the right heel up for runner's lunge. Drop the right knee down to the ground. Pull the hips back. Find half splits. Flex the left toes. Maybe press this left heel forward a few inches. Lengthen through the spine as you find the stretch. Again, maybe bringing blocks or a water bottle or something underneath the hands, bringing the ground a little bit closer. We'll pull ourselves forward into our runner's lunge. Plant the left foot. Tuck the right toes. Lift the right knee. Plant the hands. Without a connecting vinyasa, we'll bring the left foot back to meet the right. Press the hips up and back, downward facing dog. And we'll slowly lower the knees all the way down to the mat. Coming to stand on the knees, so bring the knees about hip-width distance apart. We'll find camel pose. So bring the hands to the lower back. Keep the hips where they are. And really check in with the lower back here. We don't want to crunch it too much. So if you start to lean back and you're like, ooh, I don't really want to be there, don't go there. But we can support ourselves with our hands to start. Keep the hips where they are. Lengthen through the spine. Lift up through the heart space. And then start to bend back. Keep pulling the sternum up towards the sky as you bring the shoulders back behind you. Taking a really big heart opener. Being careful to keep breathing here. Slowly bring the shoulders back up on top of the hips. We'll sit onto the heels. Bring one hand to heart, bring the other hand on top of it. Take a few moments to simply breathe and let something come up if it needs to come up. Frustration, love, fear. Noticing how quickly emotions arise when we allow them to. And we'll find a forward fold, so bring your hands down. Sit on one side and then swing your legs around in front of you. Find the sit bones on the ground, flex the toes. And then really lengthen the spine to start. And you could stay here, you could bend the knees. If it feels good, we can start to walk the hands towards the feet. Slowly start to roll yourself up. And we'll plant the feet, scoot yourself forward a little bit so that we can slowly roll all the way down to the back. Bring your knees into your heart space. Keep your right knee where it is. Squeeze it with the hands as you extend the left leg forward. For half wind removing pose, pull the right knee towards the armpit. And then we'll find supine twist, dropping your right knee over towards the left side body. I like to scoot my hips over towards the right a little bit. And then open your hands and arms up to a cactus or a T position out from your shoulders. And I like to rest my left hand on top of my right knee to get a little deeper into the twist if that feels good for you. Gently bring it through center and bring both of the knees into the heart space. Keep the left knee where it is. Squeeze it with the hands. Extend the right leg long. And then we'll find supine twist, other side. Drop your left knee over towards the right. I like to scoop my hips to the left. Open up to a cactus or a T with the hands. And then we'll bring the left knee up through center. One more time, bringing both knees into center, wrapping our arms around the legs. And then release to Shavasana pose. Let the legs extend long. Let the arms extend long. And I like to scoop my shoulders underneath my heart space to lift it just a little bit, settle back down. And then we'll end with one big breath together. So start by exhaling all of your air out. Take a big inhale through the nose to fill. Open, lift, expand, hold. Big exhale out the mouth, let it go. Let your breath return to a natural, organic breath. See if you can completely clear the mind, releasing whatever it is that keeps the mind distracted. And again, no judgment or frustration if the mind wanders. It normally does. Rather just noticing what the thought is, where it came from, and gently releasing it as you return to the breath. If you have the gift of time today, I highly encourage staying here a little bit longer, as long as you can. If you need to start moving again, we'll start by breathing deep, finding movement in the fingers and the toes. Make your way into a full body stretch with hands reaching tall up overhead. Bring your knees into your heart space. And then gently rock onto one of your sides, whichever one feels better for your fetal position. Taking a moment to feel the residue of the practice, the calmness of mind and body. And then gently press yourself up. Whenever you're ready. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. As always, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, requests, concerns, let me know. I'm happy to incorporate into my next flow. Thank you. Namaste.